Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because, well, we're tackling a topic that touches almost all of our lives in some way or another, yet it's completely surrounded by confusion and misinformation. Today, we're going to unpack the complex reality behind cancer causes. We are going way beyond the convenient excuses and looking strictly at the science and the facts. My goal is to make this incredibly important information crystal clear for you. So get comfortable and let's get ready to really understand the real story here.
Have you ever heard someone casually say, "Oh, cancer is just caused by tobacco"? Or maybe it's exclusively from mobile phone radiation. Or even, it's completely down to your genetics, there's literally nothing you can do. We hear these statements all the time, right? But we really need to challenge these oversimplified myths right out of the gate. Is it actually just one single thing? Well, as we're about to see, pinning this incredibly complex disease on one solitary culprit is a fundamental misunderstanding of how human biology actually works.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, the single cause myth. Second, the real complex causes. Third, why we seek scapegoats. Fourth, prevention strategies. And finally, a myth versus fact breakdown.
Starting off with Section 1, the single cause myth. And honestly, our very dangerous tendency to oversimplify the problem.
So there's this really common public view out there. The idea that cancer is just a straight line from one bad thing. Only tobacco, only mobiles, only genetics. It's neat, it's tidy, and it's completely wrong. The reality is that cancer is driven by a combination of multiple, overlapping, and interconnected factors. It is very, very rarely just one isolated trigger. Understanding this massive shift from a single cause to interconnected factors is absolutely the foundation of everything we're discussing today.
Moving right along to Section 2, the real complex causes. We're going to peel back the layers and look at both the biology and the environment.
To truly understand the causes, we have to understand the basic mechanism. Fundamentally, cancer starts with mutations. These are actual changes in the DNA of your cells. When this DNA gets altered or damaged, it essentially breaks the regulatory systems of the cell, and that causes those cells to just grow and divide uncontrollably. That uncontrolled growth, that is what cancer is. So the real question we should be asking isn't what causes cancer, but rather, what causes these initial DNA mutations?
Well, the triggers for these cellular DNA mutations generally fall into three massive buckets: lifestyle choices, environmental factors, and genetics. It's really the complex dance and interaction between these three distinct areas that ultimately determines a person's risk. Let's break each of these down a little further so you can really grasp the full picture here.
First up, we have lifestyle factors, basically the daily habits and choices that we make. Tobacco use and alcohol consumption are massive contributors, obviously. But an unhealthy diet, specifically one high in oily and heavily processed foods, puts immense stress on your body. Combine that kind of diet with a lack of exercise, and you are creating an internal environment that is just so much more susceptible to those DNA mutations we just talked about. These daily lifestyle choices heavily compound your overall risk.
Next, we add the second layer to the puzzle: environmental factors. These are the external elements surrounding us every single day. We're talking about the pollution in the air we breathe, various forms of radiation, and exposure to certain harmful chemicals in our daily environments. These external elements introduce toxins to the body that can actively attack and alter cellular DNA, which adds another very significant layer of danger right on top of our lifestyle choices.
And finally, genetics. Now, yes, having a family history of cancer absolutely increases your risk. Certain inherited traits just make your cells more vulnerable. But here's a genuinely surprising fact. Only about 5 to 10% of all cancers are strongly linked to an inherited genetic mutation. Genetics are rarely the only factor at play. Think of genetics as sort of loading the system, but it's usually your lifestyle and your environment that actually pull the trigger.
Which brings us to Section 3, why we seek scapegoats. If the science clearly shows it's a mix of all these things, why do we constantly seek out single scapegoats? It really comes down to the psychology of blame.
The saying goes, it's much easier to blame just tobacco or just mobile radiation than to face the complex reality. And man, this gets right to the heart of human nature. The idea that cancer is this complex web of diet, environment, family history, and habits, it's intimidating. It's scary. When people are faced with something terrifying and complex, they desperately want a simple answer. They want a single enemy they can just point a finger at. It is simply easier to blame a single scapegoat because accepting the complex truth means accepting that things are sometimes totally out of our control. Or conversely,
that we might actually need to take hard responsibility for our own daily habits. But hey, here's the good news. Section 4, Prevention Strategies. Because once we understand this complex reality, we can actually start taking real control of our lifestyle. Listen, you don't have to be a victim of circumstance here. You have agency. You can actively reduce your risk by completely avoiding tobacco and moderating or entirely cutting out alcohol. You can choose to eat a balanced, nutritious diet instead of those heavily processed foods. You can get moving and exercise regularly. Furthermore, actively working to reduce your stress levels and committing to regular medical checkups are incredibly powerful tools. By focusing on these proactive, preventative steps, you are directly combating those mutation triggers we discussed earlier. You're taking your power back.
Almost done now. Section 5, the myth versus fact breakdown. Let's systematically dismantle those myths we started with.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the public conversation often just completely misses the nuance. People will say it's only tobacco, and while tobacco is a huge cause, absolutely, other lifestyle and environmental factors deeply matter too. Or they say it's only mobiles, despite highly limited evidence there, completely ignoring the massively proven role of pollution and poor diet. Or they blame only genetics, totally forgetting that while it does increase your baseline risk, your daily lifestyle remains the actual key variable that you can control.
As we reach the end of our explainer today, I really want to leave you with this final, powerful thought. Stop looking for convenient excuses and start looking at your daily habits. Stop searching for that one single thing to blame and start taking responsibility for the interconnected lifestyle choices that you actually have the power to change right now, today. Understanding the true complex causes of cancer isn't about fear at all. It's about empowerment. Subscribe, like, and share my